hierarchical domination. And it alone posed the question not simply of economic exploitation, but exploitation in every sphere of life. And it was that growing awareness that we had to go beyond classes into hierarchy and beyond exploitation into domination that led me into anarchism and to a commitment to an anarchist outlook.
Power rules the world today. Power corrupts, they say. And absolute power corrupts you. Absolutely. It can change a man who has a heart of gold, make him cruel, wicked, self-centered and cold. Many men in this land, many organizations fought for freedom and justice throughout the land. When they have power and authority, they don't give a damn about nobody.
Hi, I'm Israel Danish for Yippee Helmet. You know, nature has a special way of protecting artificial and natural things. Here's an egg yolk. Look what nature has protected the egg yolk with. Nothing. Now, nature's real helmet, the natural helmet for the egg, is the calcium-lined calcium cover. Watch as policeman truncheon destroys egg. No good. Nature's helmet for the tomato, a bright red skin, is also valueless when the policeman's truncheon destroys it. Look at this, squash. Everyone thinks the squash is a powerful and aesthetic movement of vegetablehood, but yet policeman's truncheon destroys nature's squash. Eggplant. Eggplant is flexible, but brain damage has occurred inside. Death. Pumpkin. Closest thing to a human head. When this is brought in contact with a policeman's truncheon, watch what happens. And now the yippee head, human's natural helmet concussion.
When they have power and authority, they don't give a damn about nobody. They prostituting the island, milking the land dry. They making my people starve, exploiting, oppressing, less freedom, more suffering. This thing just can't go on. Take it over, my friend. Take it over.
We're doing a film about anarchism in America. Is there an anarchist influence in the anti-nuke movement?
No doubt about it. There's a lot. But it's manifested itself not so much in explicit opposition to the state as such, which is the most common form of anarchism, but in a way of operating that isn't centralist, where people who participate in these demonstrations and want to change their lives do so on a participatory basis rather than taking orders from central authorities. That's the way it tends to go. I mean, it's not that that's always successful, but there's that tendency towards decentralism, a tendency towards consensus operation, and at least from my perspective, a tendency to a strong nonviolent perspective, because I think the state is the ultimate violence. And so to see that nuclear power is violent, nuclear power is centralized, and we want to have a certain technology, we want to have another society where centralism of that sort, that authoritarianism is dissolved and is more responsive to people's needs. You can't block off the road?
We can't block off the road.
Oh, no, we're not going to block the road.
You don't understand. If we let you drive down there, we're going to have to let everybody else drive down there too, right? We can't have 1,000 cars down there.
You seem to have the power to do what you want.
No, we ain't doing what we're told to do.
You're going to take a chance on the cars being towed away.
Anarchist forms of organization would be a style of organizing that includes the input and decision-making of everyone who is affected. But also, anarchist organizing and decision-making would involve people taking the results of their decisions directly and acting on them, rather than having somebody else do the work for them. But it's participatory in decision-making and in action. And that direct action element, which is embodied within many of the civil disobedience actions in the anti-nuclear movement, such as blocking construction of nuclear power plants. Anarchists have, my understanding of anarchism has as part of its element a connection between ends and means. To me, if one is an anarchist, then from my point of view, one also must be nonviolent, and if one is nonviolent, one must be an anarchist. I see the linkage is very clear. A person who is nonviolent is a person, or who believes in nonviolence, is a person who believes that the sort of society we want to achieve is a society without violence, without wars, and without injustice. And to use wars, violence, and injustice to achieve that society is to be counterproductive.
Yeah.
Think it's legal for you to talk to the people on the other side of the fence?
It doesn't matter. They'll do what they want, legal or not.
So do they put the cuffs on tight?
They're pretty tight, very tight.
So how do you feel now that you've gotten arrested, you?
Wet.
Just now.
Very wet.
Other than wet.
Wet. I feel fine.
You feel good about it?
Well, of course.
I feel we're doing the right thing.
Do it otherwise.
Yeah.
The basic problem I really have is that whenever I meet leftists and the socialist and Marxist movements, I'm called a petty bourgeois individualist. I'm supposed to shrink under this. Usually I'm called a petty bourgeois individualist by students and by academicians who've never done a day's work life in their entire biography, whereas I have spent years in factories and in trade unions, in foundries and in auto plants. So after I have to swallow the word petty bourgeois, I don't mind the word individualist at all. I believe in individual freedom. It's my primary and complete commitment in individual liberty. That's what it's all about. That's what socialism was supposed to be about, or anarchism was supposed to be about, and tragically has been betrayed. And when I normally encounter my so-called colleagues on the left, socialists, Marxists, communists, they tell me that after the revolution they're going to shoot me. That is said with unusual consistency. They're going to stand me and Carl up against the wall and get rid of us real fast. I feel much safer in your company.
The Libertarian Party is a classical liberal party, and a classical liberal parties believe that people are good, that people can take care of themselves, and that the best way to create a better society is to have smaller government and lower taxes. So we would reduce taxes, we would reduce spending, we would reduce overseas military commitments, and we'd take government completely out of the whole regulation of lifestyles.
There's a lot of confusion between the terms anarchist and libertarian. What's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist?
I think if you mean by anarchy, disruption, and violence, why the Libertarian Party has nothing to do with it, because we think that our program will create a more peaceful society.
I don't mean in the derogatory use of the term anarchist, but say in the way Murray Bookchin or other left-wing anarchists look at the ideology. Serious anarchists. Is there a difference between that kind of anarchist and a libertarian?
Well, I think the whole Libertarian Party is aiming toward very major cuts in government, a very much smaller government, and I don't think that as a political movement, libertarians envision no government as an immediate alternative.
Well, it's hard to tell on the basis of the party's rhetoric, because after all, they're running for a state office. But my experience is that most people who are in the Libertarian Party have pretty decent anarchist impulses. Even if they do not say that they're anarchists, most of them will say they are libertarians at any rate. And one thing that is useful is that they have a fairly well-refined analysis of why they aren't conservative. It took the New Left to do a proper analysis of American liberals, it seems to me, and I suspect that the libertarians are doing the best analysis of American conservatives. I think that they're quite good people, and that the party contains within it probably more people of an anarchist tendency than any other organization in the country.
Libertarianism has its roots in American individualism. Although although American individualism developed independently of European anarchism, both ideas